To speak about this sicha is very hard. So just to say what I remember, I was already in Alaska doing that sicha. And by us, it was the middle of the day. And I was in the middle of a meeting with the Balabos. And my brother calls me emergency. My brother Shalom was now shliach in Shanghai. And he says, "You heard the sicha?" I said, "No." "You must hear the sicha." I said, "What happened?" "Listen to the sicha." So I immediately called the hookup. I listened to the sicha. And when I listened to that sicha, I was all night up after that sicha. And for sure was calling my friends all night, from hanging with them and talking with them. And it's very, very hard to describe the pachad, the fear that fell on all of us hearing the sicha, a true fear to the point that I was up the all night till 6 o'clock in the morning in Alaska, which is 10 o'clock in the morning in New York, to make sure the Rebbe is coming downstairs the next morning. Because that sicha felt and sounded as if the Rebbe resigned, Rahman Islam. That's such a pachad that fell on all of us. What does that mean? The Rebbe says that Giton Adros the Canon, he's giving it to us. What does that mean? It's obvious that it's not even Shaykh's Bechlal. The Rebbe cannot be Moshiach, Bishop be Moshiach. What's Ligda? So of course, for many, many years, we were all studying the sicha, talking about the sicha, being about the sicha. And looking back, I always was thinking, what's the difference between this sicha and the sicha from Purim Mem Zayin? Purim Mem Zayin was exactly the same words the Rebbe spoke in Chof Ches Nissan. The Rebbe spoke of Purim Mem Zayin. Everyone knows there's a video from that Verbringen. A whole long sicha, well, maybe an hour, a long sicha about how because Moshiach didn't come yet, and the Fidiker made a cats, and the Rebbe spoke about all the kids from the Rasag, and before that, and the Fidiker made a cats, and he was mefasim the cats, and therefore the Rebbe said that the last thing what's left, why Moshiach didn't come, is because he's giving it over from the Nasi Adair to the entire day. That from now on, everyone in this generation has to take the responsibility for being a Moshiach. And then, if not too many people know that 2 weeks later, Shabbos Vayakal Pekudim Mem Zayin was one of the most sharpest sichas ever on that Indian. And the Rebbe's words, Vayakal Pekudim Mem Zayin, the Rebbe started this sharpest sicha exactly like what he said to Reb Zalman Gorai after the Verbringen, after the sicha of Ches Nissan. The Rebbe said to Zalman Gorai, the Noga Vele Poga. That's how the Rebbe started the sicha of Vayakal Pekudim, when the Rebbe started screaming. This was the first sicha. We started screaming in the middle of the sicha. And I started talking about that we spoke about Purim, we spoke about it in the Verbringen, about the Achayis of everyone to be Moshiach. And the Rebbe spoke about himself in such a sharp way that I never heard before. The Rebbe said, I see that nobody cares, nobody does anything with that. So everyone thinks that someone else should do it. So therefore, why should I come to the Verbringen? I should sit in my room and have my own machshavas. Why should I come to Verbringen downstairs? And the Rebbe said, Elamai, I'm such a tamim, I'm so naive, I'm such a tamim that I think that maybe one more Verbringen and maybe it will affect someone. And I still didn't lose that mimis. And I still think that maybe, and the Rebbe said at the end, because it's pikuach nefesh, because the uniform Moshiach is pikuach nefesh, so I feel a suffix fake, I'll continue Verbringen and I'll not give up on Verbringen till I'll affect, and someone will take it seriously. So the question is, what happened, Chof Ches Nissan Nun Aleph, that it shook up all Lubavitch, that didn't happen Purim Mem Zayin and Vayakal Pekudim Mem Zayin. And actually, after Vayakal Pekudim, the Bochim will be Seirus, and there was a whole Vad established for Moshiach, and Moshe Sloni was at the head of the Vad, and the Bochim went to every shul, and we raised money. It was Rosh Chodesh right after that, and we raised money in all the shul, and we made our new Vad, and we wrote to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe answered, we wanted to Sogas Gvul, and it was very sharp. A Sogas Gvul et Tibone Chabad, the Rebbe is building Chabad at Toshim Mem Zayin. A Sogas Gvul et Tibone Chabad, and the Rebbe said to give all the money to Tzach, and they are Chroyim Dini for Moshiach, which is the Chagav HaYiroim, Yucheres, and a Philip Negiat Dini for Moshiach. The Rebbe spoke Purim Mem Zayin. With the ganze Scharfkeit, after all of this, the Rebbe wanted that should be with the official Meizdes and everything, it should be organized in the right way. So the question is, what happened Chof Ches Nissan that did not happen Purim Mem Zayin and Vayakal Pekudim Mem Zayin? What was the change? The Rebbe said exactly the same words. But there is one line that the Rebbe didn't say Purim Mem Zayin. And that's the line that shook us all up. That's the line that that's why we are sitting here 30 years later, in talking about this line. The Rebbe said, as ich habe getan, alles was ich kann, that the Rebbe already did everything he can, and the Rebbe said that that's it, that he did everything, and the Rebbe Koyochel is giving it to us. And that line shook us all up. That didn't happen. Purim Mem Zayin. The Rebbe didn't say those words. He said, "Beremez, am Gitibel von Anossi, geht es von Anossi, so Anossi there to them door." But he didn't say as solche Wörter often that ich habe getan, als ich kann, everything was level velorik. Those words shook us all up. That the Rebbe said that alles was getan 40 years level velorik, so we can do. What does that mean? So, of course, like everyone else, for many years, I was sitting and thinking and learning the sicha again and again. Why would the Rebbe such a sicha in front of the whole Elam, in front of the whole public, in front of children, a woman, man, everyone, Bachim, the whole world, on a video, as everything he did is level v'lorik, as elche wörter of zich, such words, more than that he cannot do. Why would the Rebbe say such things in front of everyone? Maybe the Rebbe will call in a good as Chabad and tell them quietly. But the Rebbe says the public. What does that mean? I mean, it's painful every time we see the sicha. It's painful to all of us. So there is a interesting. The Rebbe finished that sicha, if you remember, with the wörter "v'salachta v'neinu chatoseinu chaltonu," which is also unusual. The Rebbe should finish the sicha like that. Am ksheir sarvenu. And that lashon from the Shviras Haluchos. And I remember Tovshim Memhei in several times, Purim Memhei in a few Fabrengens, in Memhei, Bechlal, Chelek Tes, and Kusichas. They're very famous. The Rebbe always asks the question, Hayitochem Moshe Rabbeinu broke the luchas. And especially as it says, Le'einei kol Yisrael. Even if Moshe had to break the luchas, he should have done it tachti sa'or, nobody should see. Why to do it Le'einei kol Yisrael? The Rebbe is asking many places. The Rebbe asked in Sicha Mem Zayin, when the Rebbe was crying the famous sicha, why would Moshe Rabbeinu break the luchas? It's the Eden don't belong to the luchas. They should give back to the Rebbe. We're not allowed to break a beam in a regular place, a safer batashkes. To break the Rebbe says in Aloshan, to break the luchas are given from Atzmus and Mehuz. Moshe Rabbeinu goes and breaks the Le'einei kol Yisrael. One should see it. What was the point? So the Rebbe answered several times. In the Rebbe answered, as the Yine for breaking the luchas was lishbei resvibam shel Yisrael, to break the heart of Yidden. That Achar was given the Nisim. When you think about the sicha from Chof Ches Nissan and you think about Shviras Haluchos, it's very similar. Moshe Rabbeinu takes the Yidden out of Mitzrayim. It's do the 10 Makes. Noch do ganze in von Kriyas Yamsuf. Noch do Matan Torah. There is a meredike Nisim in the floors. And then the Yidden did the Egel, which is a terrible thing. What does Moshe Rabbeinu do? He takes the luchas, the ganze Zach von Atzos and Mehuz allein, and he smashes that. It's like, what is he doing? Is he committing suicide? What is he doing? He's taking the biggest risk for himself. Nehmt den luchas von Eibishter und brecht them. Because 3,000 Yidden did Mereva messed up, therefore he's acting like a teenager. What was he doing? What's the point? Breaking the luchas. You wanted to give a speech about, give them a sicha, tell them a terrible thing, daven to Moshe, what Moshe Rabbeinu did. For what breaking the luchas? What's our meister breaking the luchas? But the Rebbe says in a sicha, the Moshe Rabbeinu knew that the only way to shake up the Eden and bring them to tshuva is only breaking the luchas. That was the only thing will be shaber libam shel Yisrael. That was the only way, and the Rebbe says in another sicha, Mem Zayin, ados einpflanzen is they. The Mesiras Nefesh for another Eden. The Moshe Rabbeinu is Mesiras Nefesh for Eden. So einpflanzen in Eden, that concept. That means, everyone knows the sicha for Ches Nissan was 2 days. 2 days after the sicha for Chavav Nissan. 2 days. Chavav Nissan by the Yechidus scholars, the Rebbe said, as a Mugadik sicha, the Rebbe spoke about the Nisim, the miracle that happened in the Gulf War. The Rebbe was going on in details about Saddam Hussein, started what happened by Purim, how he was the first, the victory of the war against Saddam, and then how the Elam, how the nations of the world had to control him, and how they made him. The Rebbe goes on, and the Rebbe says, don't you see when your child is asking you, where, when you see about the Seder, where are the Nisim? Today, the Rebbe says, bigger Nisim from Purim. Purim, there was a Nisim, you have to learn from the story from the Megillas Esther. Esther was called to the Melech, and then later you find out there was a nest. Here was Nissim Gloim. The Rebbe said, "We have tanzen for the Nissim. We have to Shem dance. You have to dance in the streets for the Nissim from some." The Rebbe, I mean, everyone who remembers the Gulf War, Israel was never in such a matzav ever, like the Gulf War, because the United States did not allow Israel to mix in. And as the president here said to Israel, to the Prime Minister Shamir, that if Israelis will dare send a plane up, the Americans will bring it down. Israel was literally hopeless ever in the history of Israel. They couldn't do anything. And here missiles are coming, one missile after the other, breaking buildings. And the Rebbe is the only one for 3 months who says nothing will happen. The Rebbe did miracles at that time that Mamis from Elisha and Novi, we didn't see such miracles. The greatest Nissim, that not one Yid was touched from hundreds of, from so many missiles who came down in Tel Aviv and everywhere in Israel. So after all of this Nissim, what does the Rebbe say? So Chavov Nissim, the Rebbe said by Yechidus Klolis, that the Medaf tanzen gas in this Nissim like it is Mitzrayim. And 2 days later, the Rebbe says, and after all this Nissim, nobody is moving. When the Rebbe started to give out the dollars, I mean the checks to the shluchim, the Rebbe was asking, is there 1,000 meizdes? After 40 years of the Nasi, there was not 1,000 meizdes, not 1,000 shluchim, 1,000 meizdes there wasn't. They were looking with licht to make 1,000 meizdes, because the Rebbe is asking for 1,000 meizdes. So the only way that the Rebbe felt, the only way to lishber libam, to influence the news, to really to treseltan the meilam, to give us the keches atzmim, that we simple people like we are, that we should feel the kesher that we, each one of us, needs to internalize, that we are taking a chayes to Rebbe's arbeit, that we are participating in the Rebbe's arbeit v'shleimus. It doesn't matter if you're a shliach, if you're a child, if you're a woman, if you're asking a businessman, each one of us has a chayes from Rebbe to turn Rebbe sinyonim. The only way was by breaking the luchas. As the Rebbe said, hey, brechen dem kos, by breaking the luchas and saying about himself, the shook us all up. Till today, 30 years later, nobody speaks about Purim Zayin. Nobody speaks about Vayakol Pekurim Zayin. Because the Rebbe said, that shook us all up. One of the letters that everyone wrote letters, Chof Ches Nissan. And Gutnik, Rabbi Chaim Gutnik, lately was inspired in the letter he wrote, a very heartsick letter he wrote to the Rebbe. An amazing letter, begging the Rebbe, please tell me what the Rebbe wants we should do. What should we do? And what did the Rebbe answer him? 4 words. Faronisi, Shabbos das Linim in Rebbe, the Svados from Shabbos das Linim in Rebbe, the Shabbos from Tazrim Mitzayim. Everyone knows Tazrim Mitzayim, the Rebbe spoke. Rebbe Eimer, Ezi Derech Yeshora. What is the derech to bring Moshiach? The Rebbe said, to learn from Likutei Sichos and from Chassidus and Likutei Sichos from the Sidereinu about the inyanim for Moshiach. What is the Pshat Moshiach? That's the derech Yeshora to bring. So I would like to point out one nikuda in the Rebbe's Sichos about Moshiach which is not known so much, which I think is very important for us today because we are 30 years later to understand that and to internalize that. And that's a Farbrengen that was Shmini Tov Shinit Beis, famous Farbrengen, which is very known as Shabbos HaGodel by Chassidim. And in that Farbrengen, the Rebbe asked to sing the Gimel Tnuas, the Nigun of the Baal Shem Tov, the Magid and the Alter Rebbe. And Rabbi Yael always tells the story about that Farbrengen, that the Rebbe was in an unusual dveikes, and by the Rebbe, after the sing the Nigun, the Rebbe turned around to the wall, and he made with the hands to continue with the Rebbe down Mincha. It was an unusual Farbrengen. There was a lot of L'chaim, there was Mamisha, it's called Shabbos HaGodel, as I said. One of the interesting late things was this past time that Reb Zeli Katzman, who was a bocher who just came from friends, and the Rebbe was singing Gimel Tnuas. He was an ernst bocher. He started to sing. It was a small elam, and he vermacht degen, and the Rebbe started to listen to him. And it's gewon still, and the Rebbe listens to his nigen. And when they finished, the Rebbe asked him, "We want us to get them nigen. From who you are the nigen?" So he said, "From David Leib Maroz, from Chonim Maroz's older son." But the Rebbe says, "Herzlich richtig." It sounds like the nigun is the way you sing it is correct. Then the Rebbe started the nigun with the ganze richot. In middle of the nigun, the Rebbe said, as the gimel, the tnua gimel, the third tnua, the one for the Alter Rebbe, to sing it again and again and again. The Rebbe said, why? Weil hat Mamshir gewesen, a nice von Atzmus in Sof, that the Alter Rebbe was Mamshir, something new from Atzmus, and that Mamshir going to the Reis Avachov, to all the generation of the Rabbein. And that Nekude from The Rebbe said, I give you a neshama chadosha. And this nekud is important because the Rebbe himself didn't speak about it too many times. That that the Alter Rebbe was a neshama chadosha, a new soul. So you do that. Everyone thinks a new soul means that never was a Gilgul, but that's a simple pshat. But as the Rebbe says in his Shvini Yud Beis, and also Rabbi Yale, famous story, that Rabbi Yale said, had a debate with another Chassid, that Rabbi Yale said that he thinks Neshama Chadosha is not a pshat, was never in this world. But Neshama Chadosha means that it's a whole different level of a Neshama. Rabbi Yale said that as there is a Maimel Kulteira, and the other Chassid was fighting with him, and he wrote to the Rebbe, who is right? And the Rebbe answered him that it's not his business what kind of Neshamas the Rabbeim had. But then later, when Kena had the Kulas Yinosh Shetei Chassidus, so it says there about the Alter Rebbe, the Neshama Chadosha, but the Gila Chassidus, so the Rebbe writes in the Aore, Urei Lekutei Shir Hashirim, there is an explanation, Shom Nizbayer, what is the Pshat Neshama Chadosha? And what is the biur there? The Alter Rebbe brings that from the Arizal. The Arizal says that all the Giluim in Elam Hazeh, from Adam Arishan, all the revelations of godliness in Elam Hazeh from Lakus, from Adam Arishan, until Moshiach is all from Chitzenius Atik. And from Moshiach will start on a Gilui for Pnimius Atik. What is Atik and Arich? That's Rotzen and Tainug, pleasure and will, which is the Keser, the crown over the spheres, and that's the highest levels in Ein Sof. And in Atik itself, which is the word Atik means Neta, which means the inyan from Tainug, the pleasure of the Elokus. In Atik itself, there is the inyan from. In Atik itself, there is the inyan from. In Atik itself, there is the inyan from. In Atik itself, there is the inyan from the Chochme Bina Das of Atik and the Midas of Atik. And Chochme Das of Atik, that is the seichel of Atik. This is the inyan from. This is the inyan from seichel, from intelligence, and Midas is feelings. So the inyan from Chochma Bina Das of Atik, that nekuda from the intelligence of Atik, that's la'atzmei. So the Chassidus explains. The Arizal says that all the revelations of godliness in the world that were from Adam Arishan till Moshiach are from Chitzenius Atik, from the Midas, from the Midas of Atik, but from Moshiach bin Isgal Pnimis Atik, which is the Gilui of Atzmus itself. So the Alter Rebbe says there, the Arizal says that there are neshamas, all the neshamas in this world are from Adam Arishan, which is Chitzenius Atik, but there will be neshama chadoshes, but they will be for Pnimis Atik, and those neshamas chadoshes are going to be. Those neshamas chadoshes are for Pnimis Atik. That means that's the Gilui Moshiach. So the Alter Rebbe who was a neshama chadosha. What does that mean, neshama chadosha? That he was a Gilui for Pnimis Atik. And this nekuda is very important to understand that. Even when the Rebbe spoke about the Rebbetzin, right after the Stalkos, he said her name is Schneerson, her family name is Schneerson, that she's a son of Schneer, and she is inheriting from the Alter Rebbe who was a neshama chadosha. That nekuda, the Filik Rebbe speaks about it many times in Erev Rosh Hashanah of Shin Aleph, of Shin Zayin, that the Rabbeim always spoke Erev Rosh Hashanah, that the Alter Rebbe, the Baal Shem Tov said, before the Alter Rebbe was born, the Baal Shem Tov said that there were 3 years before the Alter Rebbe's neshama came down, that he knew the neshama chadosh is coming down to this world, and he did not know where he is, where the neshama is, because they are hiding it from Malachim. That means the Baal Shem Tov himself was not on that level. That's what we see in both of the Rebbe spoke only the 7 Rabbeim, that the lineage from Nayam Shocher von Atzmos, that's the Alter Rebbe who was Mamshech Hanai Gilui, the lineage from Pnimis Atik, which means the Alter Rebbe is the Alter Rebbe's neshama, the Gilui from Chassidus Chabad, that is Moshiach. Then people think that the Rebbe started with Moshiach, and Moshiach started with Tovshin Nun Aleph or in Tovshin Yud Aleph. We have to understand the ganze lineage for Chassidus Chabad, the old Gilui Chassidus is Gilui Moshiach. That is Chassidus, that's Chabad. And the Rebbe once spoke about Sukkot one of the nights, the Rebbe spoke about the Ushpizin. So the Rebbe asked the question about the Ushpizin. We understand there are 7 Ushpizin. Who are the 7? Avrom, Yitzchak, Yankov, Moshe, Aaron, Yosef, and David. So all the 6, well, before Sukkot was given to us. Avrom, Yitzchak, Yankov, and Moshe, Aaron were there when mitzvah of Sukkot was given, Yosef. But David HaMelech was born 400 years later. How could he fit in the Ushpizin? He was born 400 years later after Sukkot was given. And the Rebbe answered, one of the nights of Sukkot, the Rebbe answers, David HaMelech ben Neshama. The Neshama was the Ma'ila before he was born. He was already David HaMelech, was Shviras Haluchos. He was already Ushpiz. Then later he was born. So the Indian from, when we talk about the Neshama, It doesn't go away. It doesn't matter for its birth, after these talks. It doesn't make a difference. And Neshama, David HaMelech is a Shviras Haluchos. He was there one of the Ushpizim before he was born and after he was born. The same thing when he gets to the Rabbi, as the union for Neshama Chadosha, that's his Naye Amshoche von Atzmus. That is Chassidus Chabad. That doesn't go away anywhere. This is it. This is a Naye Gilin Lekus in the Welt, and therefore. What's so important, I think the message the Rebbe said to Benjamin Netanyahu in Iyur Tov Shemem Ches in 1988, the Rebbe said to Benjamin Netanyahu, the famous, everyone talks about now, the Rebbe told him that you'll have to fight with 119 people. Before that, the Rebbe said to him, you're coming to a person who is betchila samlocha shalei, that he is in the beginning of his job. The Rebbe said by himself, that I'm in the beginning of my job. In Tov Shemem Ches, after the Rebbe spoke a sicha from Cheshbein Shalaylam, after the talks from the Rebbe spoke about that one of the sons of the Tzemach Tzedek, and someone said to ask him what after the Rebbe passed away, someone said Rebbe passed away, what will be the future after he's passing? So after this sicha from Tov Shemem Ches, and after the Rebbe signed the Tzavoah, what happened in Tov Shemem Ches? The Rebbe said to Netanyahu, you're coming to a person at the beginning of his job. And then the Rebbe says in Tov Shin Nun to bring the Sefer HaShluchim. And the Sefer HaShluchim, the Rebbe says to put pictures of children. And why the Rebbe said the sicha, why to put children? That when they'll become adults, that they should go on the shlichus. And the book is printed in Tov Shin Nun Aleph. After the sicha of Chof Ches Nissan. So what we see from that, we have to understand. The same thing happened with Dan Notzach. The Rebbe said the whole kitruk. The Rebbe started Tov Shin Beis to not Bias Moshiach and Gulas Moshiach. And then comes Memhei, it becomes a kitruk of this forum. And then it comes, the Rebbe says in Memvov and Memzayin, what's the reason of this kitruk? That there is a tiny, what is the complaint? The Chabad is not active. And what is the answer? It'll be Bein Areich. And when it became Bein Areich, in the last 30 years of the Rebbe's Nesias, became Bein Areich. Now we have 5,000 shluchim. We had then barely 1,000 shluchim. We didn't even 1,000 maises then. So what we see from all of this, as many times I mentioned about this, the sicha from Yud Shvat of Shin Yud Beis, where the Rebbe said the Frierdiker Rebbe came out with a campaign to start an institution which is called Ato Igu Tamida Yeshivas, and then he saw that the world, America was not ready. So 12 years later, in Tov Shin Yud Beis, 2 years after the Frierdiker Rebbe passed away, now the Rebbe wants to do it, which means the Frierdiker Rebbe continues to run the show, and now he wants it. Now he feels the world is America's ready. Which is this, with this point, what I'm trying to say is that the most important thing we have to come out of Chof Ches Nissan, that the Rebbe gave us a keach and that sicha of two things. First of all, that we should feel internalized. That when the Rebbe said Tov Shin Yud Aleph, that it depends on our work. As not, the Rebbe said about the physically in they chose one, and then everyone else could go and do whatever they want. The Rebbe is like saying that he needs the participation of every chassid. He means that. And therefore, by Chof Ches Nissan, the Rebbe shook us up that we felt that the Rebbe means it with an emes, that we, and the Rebbe gave us the koach to feel it by breaking the luchet, by saying such things about himself. He shook us up that we should feel that we can, and we are part of it. The Rebbe means serious. And the zweite Sache, and the most important thing, as the Rebbe continues, that the pshat the Rebbe said, we could see from all the zettlach, everything the people said, the Rebbe accepted. Except what Shmuel wrote, he wanted something wild, that people should separate themselves and fast. The Rebbe said, no, the ganze kavanah is to be with the ganze Welt, not to be separate. But every atzoy that came, if it's Kabbalah Samalchos or the Chsimis or whatever else, to read the Pidyanis by the Tzienim, everything the Rebbe accepted. The ladies who brought tambourine, everything the Rebbe accepted. Why? Because the pshat wasn't, the first sicha after the first Verbringen, Shmini Nun Aleph, was the Rebbe said, as the kavanah is that everyone could say, a person could say, how can I, a small person, bring Moshiach? The Rebbe said, since all the generations went by, until now Mashiach didn't come, it means that mivart of unser arbeit, and that little things that each one of us could do, that is will be Mashiach. Because Mashiach didn't come, Raya, we waited for us. That means the Rebbe, like the Rebbe said, the Rebbe didn't matter what you do. What mattered was, as everyone takes it serious. That we take it serious. Doesn't matter what you do. One person is doing the Pidyanis, the other one is doing Chasimis, the other one is doing Limot the Terefon Mashiach. Whatever it is, whatever you do, as long as you do something, As long as you do the Rebbe's work, that's what matters. And as long as you're serious about it, and as long as you take it serious, and as long as you understand that the Rebbe main business that the Rebbe needs, the Rebbe wrote to a book in Tafshin Beis in Israel. And the Rebbe wrote to him, it's printed in Igros. The Rebbe wrote to him that he has a plan to conquer Israel, because now it's a new country. We could send shluchim and rabbonim to every city. We could conquer Israel. But the Rebbe said, I need to know if Anash in Israel are ready to work with me. And therefore the Rebbe said, I want to have everyone from Anash in Israel write me a personal letter in a closed envelope. And he should say, are you ready to work the way the Rebbe wants to conquer Israel or not? And the Rebbe said, if they don't, and it should not be like it was, the Rebbe's Meramis and Xavis Kashas, that people said, what can I do? It was a peer pressure. Everyone signed. I had to sign also. So the Rebbe said, therefore, it should not be a public signature. Everyone personally should send me his own personal letter. Is he ready to conquer Israel, to work with me to conquer Israel? The Rebbe said, if they don't answer me, or if they answer no, I'll know that Israel, that Anash are not ready, and I'll wait till the time comes. As we see now, Baruch Hashem, there are shluchim, 800 shluchim all over Israel, which wasn't when I was a child. So what we see by the Rebbe, as the Rebbe said about the Filik Rebbe, as who shneisa tzaddik, like the Eibishter, that he's not rushing. A boss of Adam, when he wants to do a project, he doesn't know when his day comes, so he's rushing to finish it. A tzaddik is like the Eibishter. He told me he has time. If it's not b'chaim chayus, it'll be later. It continues the same way. So that is the most important thing, and we have to know and see the reality. How when I was a child, I remember there was all those pirchei songs. And all the songs, if you remember, those of you my age, were like all kinds of psukim from Tirim, nothing with Moshiach. And after the shturim from Moshiach, the Rebbe started, is Avram Fried, and Mordechai ben David, and all the Jewish singers today talking Moshiach. And today, the call for Moshiach comes to the Gresta Litvish Shivel. When I was a child in Bnei Brak, they were throwing stones on us because the Rebbe spoke about Moshiach. And we're not allowed to ask Moshiach. We're not allowed to mention the word Moshiach. And today, the call for Moshiach comes to the biggest daughter of the Misnagdim, and from his daughter and his granddaughter. And just a few months ago, there was a kenas, an international kinos, and this Greenberg, we are Moshiach now, but the Misnagdish world. So we see how the Rebbe changed the Misnagdish world, changed the entire world, and this happened the last 30 years. So just to understand, as a Chad Shalom, the Rebbe said something, the Chof Ches Nissan, because something happened, some accident happened here. The opposite, just like Shviras Haluchos was only a chonet, as Rebbe says in the sichas, as Dafke durch Shviras Haluchos begat the people in Shultere, begat the ganz Tere. This was another shlav in bringing Eden to tshuva. The same thing, but Rebbe, the Chof Ches Nissan, the Rebbe the next day, the Rebbe continued it for bringings. Everything went on. There was another shlav how to bring Anash and all the chassidim, and therefore the Rebbe didn't mind that people wrote Melech HaMashiach. I mean, what the Rebbe wanted was emes. L'moshel, my father, when I was a child, my father used to write to the Rebbe, instead of Hakad Mushlit, he used to write, Adeni HaMelech, Echi HaMelech Leilam. And the Rebbe always answered him. Long letters, the Rebbe answered him of everything. And I wrote one time, after the story happened in Tavshin and Aleph, because everyone signed the Kabbalah Sanach, everyone signed Hakad Mushlit Melech HaMashiach. So I wrote to the Rebbe a letter in Iyo, Hakad Mushlit Melech HaMashiach, Melech Leilam, and the Rebbe answered me, Kshiyah V'Yimsalei. Why? Because the Rebbe demanded emes. My father was a Yid from Aychid Yid. By him was emes. The Rebbe was not a problem with that. So the Rebbe demanded everything that should be with the ganzen emes and ganzen fire with the Mesilas Nefesh, and that's what the Rebbe wanted. And therefore, we have to remember that the Iker lesson that we take from Ches Nissan is number one, as the Azach the Rebbe wanted, that we should be Ibegem in ganzen, and therefore the Ine from Shluchim to go on Shliches, and to, if you're not a Shliach, to do Mifzoim, whatever you could do, everyone is a soldier of the Rebbe. Everyone's taking a chayes to bring Moshiach. There's no chochmes. And it's serious. And the second thing is, the Rebbe is the one who is leading it. And the Rebbe knew about it. The Rebbe wanted it. The Rebbe once said about the Alter Rebbe, and then when after Sukkot, the Rebbe said that the Alter Rebbe was a from Tainug by him. Why was Tainug? That the Alter Rebbe knew that his mission is to bring Chassidus Chabad. And to bring, and al derech Chassidus Chabad come Moshiach, that the Alter Rebbe was Chochem Areis HaNeilad, that he saw the Moshiach's coming as a result of the Zimud Chassidus, so it was Mole Tainug all his life. That the Alter Rebbe is Koshkim Kabachem about the Rebbe, that the Rebbe saw the entire thing, where it's going, and the Rebbe is leading us, and the ganze Chof Ches Nissan was a part, another shlav in bringing Moshiach Dolamato and make it a real thing to us, and we should give it over to others. And all the 30 years from today, it's all led by the Rebbe, the whole prat to prat, in everything that's happening. And it only depends on us that each one of us should is in ganzen übergehen zu Rebbe. L'chaim, l'chaim.